Want to listen to this episode ad-free? Head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. For a limited time, we are offering free 1 week trials to our Patreon just so you can see all of the exciting audio and video episodes that you get to unlock as a Patreon member. And as an ITBR professor member, which is $10 a month, you receive access not only to our audio and video episodes, but also our monthly book club. This month, we are reading The Book of Gothel, a retelling of Rapunzel through the witch's eyes by Mary McMinn. Join us virtually on July 21st at 5 p.m. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify. And please mention the podcast to one of your friends. It really helps get the word out there and it allows me to continue getting really exciting guests, Mary to continue her True Crime and Academia show, and Christian Garcia to continue to co host our rewatch show, whether it be Smash or Queer as Folk. And we are now on YouTube, so you can listen to the podcast on YouTube. So if you're a YouTube lover, we have you covered there as well. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hey, true crime friends. Welcome back to another episode of True Crime in Academia. I am your host, Mary DePippi. I hope you've all had a wonderful week this week and are having a wonderful weekend. It's starting to get a little bit chilly. Not like chilly, but it's starting to definitely cool down, or at least it has been for the past couple of days. And it is making me so fucking excited for fall. Like, I can't even. It is spring and fall are my two favorite seasons of all. And, I think that's partially because of the nice mild weather. Well, not really anymore. But anyway, so I am so excited for it. I'm excited for, like I said, everything fall, everything Halloween. It is my favorite holiday. So yeah, I am just... My heart is so happy. I'm so excited. I've also been redoing my room. Well, not really redoing, but just decluttering and moving some things, adding some storage, like things like I need to add some shelves, adding like other types of storage, like for in shelving units that I have and stuff like that, just so that way everything has like its own place and that it's nice and neat and organized the way that I need it to be. So I am so excited for some of the things that I've ordered to come in. I'm also ordering new sheets soon because, your girl's got to be financially responsible. Yeah, because I bought some other stuff and spent way too much money on my room this week. But all like good things and stuff that in the long run is really just going to make the space so much brighter and more open and just livable and breathable. So I'm very excited about how my room is shaping out. Also, I finished The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Oh my God, if you have not read it yet, you absolutely should. There are so many twists and turns in this novel, and the story and the plot and just, the characters, everything about it is amazing. So if you are into true crime fiction, definitely for the spooky season that's coming upon us, please go and check that out. Also, another book that I really want to recommend, I can't remember if I recommended this already, but Ask for Andrea by Noelle W. Healy, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. That is also an incredible, incredible read. True crime, but also true crime supernatural. So if you like the supernatural element, definitely check that book out. it is again another really amazing book. Right now, though, well, I didn't start it yet, but my plan is next to read Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica, I believe is how you pronounce that. I've heard so many good things about this book. It was actually recommended to me by someone that I knew from a true crime book club. We were talking about how I love the novel The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and she recommended that. So I am very excited to get into that. And again, it's spooky season. So like literally my whole list of books that I want and need to get, even though there are plenty of books on my bookshelf just staring at me being like, hey, you haven't read us yet. Or like, you started and haven't finished. What's going on with you? um, it is what it is. Moods change sometimes. It's totally fine. But, sometimes being a book dragon can be costly and take up space. But I will let you guys know how that book is when I finish it. And also comment on my social media and stuff. Let me know what horror books you're reading. I would love to know. Like I said, that's normally my jam anyway, but specifically because of spooky season being upon us, I would like to read and consume as many books pertaining that just are the horror genre and, to get into the Halloween spirit. So if you could just take a second and let me know what horror books you recommend. Like I said, comment on the Instagram post for this episode and let me know. That would be greatly appreciated. So, just a quick trigger warning before we get into this week's episode. It is particularly brutal what happens. Part 1 is particularly okay. I think most people would be able to get through it. However, part 2 is going to be very, very rough. I will try to write in a cue and just kind of maybe give a quick summary as to what happened for those of you who need to skip, and then we can kind of get into the fallout and things like that. So yeah, we're going to take a real quick break and then we will get into this week's episode, which is part 2 and sadly the murder of Shanda Sharer.
While it's still summer, and I hope so many of you out there are enjoying beach days, I know that while I'm at the beach, I'll have a thought pop into my mind like, wait, what am I going to assign on my syllabus? What books do I want my students to read? I know if you are a college educator listening right now, or a student, or someone who just really enjoys and values academic writing and academic topics, I have a press that you need to know about. It's called Broadview Press, and it's an independent press. I've had a few of their writers on the podcast, including Dr. Sid Dobrin, who was recently on the podcast to talk about how artificial intelligence is changing the game for humanities education. Soon, I'm going to have Dr. Andrea Sullivan Clark on to talk all about philosophies on Turtle Island, especially indigenous philosophies. And what does she think about how pop culture looks at Native American narratives? If you are looking for a text to assign your students in the humanities classroom, Broadview Press has you covered. They have a book that just came out called Academic Writing Now, a brief guide for busy students. It is designed to cover the basics of a college writing course in a concise, student-friendly format. Each chapter concentrates on a crucial element of composing an academic essay. It is available as an ebook for under $30, and it includes readings on contemporary issues like AI, climate change, and campus life. I'm so excited because Broadview Press has released an exclusive discount code, Ivory Tower, for 20% off your broadviewpress.com order. That's Ivory Tower for 20% off. Make sure you follow them on Instagram at Broadview Press. Enjoy all of your reading. Hi, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and when I'm not here with a podcast microphone in the ITBR, I am consulting with several clients. I have small business clients where I provide them social media strategies. I have writing clients. I've worked on college admission essays. I've worked on a graduate student's thesis. I've worked on journal article editing. And I also have worked with those who are creating a podcast or who have a podcast on social media and ideas for how to get their podcast out there and trying to target their audience. So if you are interested in any of my consulting services, you can just reach out to me at ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com or search Ivory Tower Boiler Room on Google, and you will see my phone number. So feel free to give me a call. The first hour is $30, and then we'll figure out what plan works for you after that. Okay, now back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. After Pride Month is over, sometimes it can be hard to find our favorite LGBTQ books, TV shows, films, even theater experiences. Well, don't worry, because I have the magazine for you. It is called The Gay and Lesbian Review, and their latest July and August issue just got released. It's called Sanctuary. Well, here is what editor Richard Snyder Jr. just described about the latest issue. He writes, the impulse for any minority to seek out safe spaces or sanctuaries exists in proportion to the oppression they suffer in their social world. From the catacombs of Rome to the colony of Plymouth, the upshot of this quest is well attested. Members of sexual minorities have undoubtedly been forming their own private communities for centuries. Would Plato's Symposium be an early example? But it was only in the 19th century that sexual identity became a criterion for forming associations of like-minded individuals. Well, this issue has everything. An article about Andy Warhol's factory, an article about how Nantucket became a gay haven, how a lesbian art colony formed in St. Augustine, even how a gay bar in San Antonio fought back and won for recognition of the LGBTQ community. So, the ITBR is so excited to partner with the Gay and Lesbian Review, who is offering an exclusive discount code. Head on over to glreview.org, click subscribe, and enter the promo code ITBR50, that is ITBR50, to receive 50% off any print or digital subscription. And make sure you follow at the GL Review on Instagram to see all of their latest news. I hope you enjoy your reading.
On January 10th, 1992, Tony Lawrence, Hope Rippey, and Laurie Thackett drove to Melinda Lovelace's home. While they were there, they were borrowing Melinda's clothes, and Melinda decided to show them a knife. She then told the others that she was just going to scare 12-year-old Shanda Sharer with it. This was because Melinda claimed that Shanda was a copycat, but also because she was claiming that she stole her ex-girlfriend / current girlfriend, Amanda Harvin, which that was a name I told you to keep a pin in from last week. Now, Amanda and Shanda, they rhyme, met 2 years prior at Hazelwood Middle School when the two girls actually got into an altercation. Interestingly enough, the two girls became friends while they were in detention for said altercation. They would then go on to, at some point, exchange romantic letters. Now, Melinda became immediately jealous of their close friendship, and the following October, Amanda actually decided to take Shanda as her date to a school dance, where Melinda confronted Shanda. During this time, though, despite the fact that they never really broke up, Melinda had already started dating another older girl in the school. Later that month, while Amanda and Shanda were hanging out and attending a festival together, Melinda, of course, was there, found them, and threatened Shanda in public. Shanda's parents became extremely concerned about her relationship with Amanda and just all of this stuff going on with Melinda that they decided to transfer her to Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic School that November. So very, very quickly this happens. Melinda then started sending Amanda letters about how she wanted to kill Shanda. Now, Amanda claims that she gave them to a youth prosecutor, but as far as she knew, nothing was ever done. Which is sad to think of the what if, but, you know, I can't help but wonder what if they caught this and, you know, it's possible Shanda might still be alive today. It's also possible that she might not, but again, you know, it's the what if everything worked out the way that it was supposed to, you know. It's so sad. The 4 teen girls then got into Lori Thackett's car and drove to Jeffersonville, the town where Shanda's father lived and where she lived on the weekends. They eventually got lost and stopped at a McDonald's for directions. When they arrived at the Sharer residence, Melinda instructed Hope and Tony to go to the door and introduce themselves as friends of Amanda's, and that she was waiting for them at the witch's castle by the Ohio River, and, you know, she should come. She actually asked for you to come and for us to pick you up. So Shanda answers the door, and Hope and Tony do and say as Melinda had told them. But Shanda says that she can't go with them right now because she has a party to go to. But if they come back around midnight, she might be able to go. Now, at first, Melinda was really mad about this, but Tony and Hope convinced her that, you know what, it's going to be okay. We'll just come back later. No big deal. They return at around 12:30 a.m. Now, during the ride, Melinda said that she couldn't wait to kill Shanda, but that she also just wanted to use the knife to scare her. So to me, it feels like in some ways that Melinda's real intentions are starting to slip in front of the other girls. But at the same time, like, Lori kind of already knows this already, like what's going on and what Melinda's real plan is. But Tony and Hope have not been looped in because, again, this is the first time they're really hanging out with her. After hearing this, Tony is like, I am not going back to the door. Like, it's sad because to me, like, in reading and like researching this case and everything that happened, it's sad to me because it seems like she feels very stuck in this situation, because even though she's not on the receiving end of, sadly, the violence and torture that is about to be, I can see and understand how she would be very terrified, because clearly she is in the car with some very dangerous people, and not wanting to be on the receiving end of, being killed or being severely injured, is probably going through her mind. But she is like, nope, I'm not going to the door to get Shanda. Like, she's like, nope. And probably because she's like, I'm not facilitating this, wants nothing to do with it. So Lori decides to go with Hope instead. Meanwhile, Melinda hid in the back seat under a blanket with her knife. Now, Shanda, when they get to the door, she is downstairs, so she naturally opens the door. Her parents had already gone to bed. She was just watching TV. So she talks to them. She's still a bit reluctant to go with the girls to meet Amanda, but she eventually gives in. When they start to get into the car, Hope starts asking Shanda about her relationship with Amanda. Then Melinda jumps out of the back seat and puts a knife to Shanda's throat. She then starts interrogating her about the sexual nature of her relationship with Amanda, which I could not find proof if there was or wasn't. I wasn't looking for it, to be honest. They are preteen. This is like a preteen teen relationship. I'm not interested in that aspect, nor am I going to go find that or really talk about it. But that is the like, those are the facts that is what Melinda started interrogating her about. But again, I have no proof of whether or not they were, nor does that really matter, honestly. Not only for the aforementioned reasons, but also because it seems that Melinda has made up her mind that this is a serious relationship and that she is stealing the love of her life from her. That Shanda is stealing the love of her life from her. So, I don't think it would matter even if there was proof or not proof. But anyway. When they arrive at the witch's castle, they take Shanda, who is uncontrollably sobbing at this point, which is completely understandable. They take her inside and bind her arms and legs with rope. Melinda then taunts her, takes her rings off and her watch, and gives them to the other girls. Laurie joins in the taunting and tells Shanda that the castle is filled with human remains and that hers would be next. Laurie, then taking it further, takes a shirt with a smiley face pattern design on it from her car and lights it on fire, but quickly fearing and realizing that that was a stupid idea, not only because she doesn't want the fire to be spotted by other cars because they're not very far off from the road. I mean, just in general, it's fucking stupid to light a fire, an uncontrolled fire in a forest. This is how forest fires get started, people. Sorry. So she does that. I think they put the fire out and then they put Shanda back in the car and then they all drive off. Shanda, of course, is begging the girls to take her back home. But of course they refuse. They eventually, of course, again get lost. And they stop at a gas station to ask for directions. While they're all getting out of the car and, doing other things, in the convenience store section of the gas station, they cover Shanda with a blanket. After leaving the gas station, they then get lost again and pull into another gas station to ask for directions. They then drive off to the edge of an area of woods near Laurie's home in Madison, Indiana.
It's officially beach season, which means I need all of my favorite Bath and Body products, but this time I need beachy scents. Well, my favorite Bath and Body boutique, the Soapbox NY, has me covered. From Farmhouse Fresh, my favorite company for all things face masks and retinol creams, to Finchberry, a beautiful bar of soap that looks like a slice of cake. I especially love the emerald one because it reminds me of the Wizard of Oz. I also love Wavertree in London. They have summer cocktail scents like peach Bellini, Prosecco, and so much more. They also have a blending bar with over 200 essential oils. So Janine, the co-owner, she knows my favorite scent is French vanilla and almond. So I've had the body wash, the bubble bath, the body lotion. If you don't live on Long Island, which I don't live on Long Island anymore, I still am getting my favorite products because the Soapbox NY has an extensive website as well as an Instagram and TikTok where you can place your orders by just DMing Janine. So if you do live on Long Island, definitely make a day trip out to Port Jefferson. It's a beautiful beach town. So you can follow the Soapbox NY on Instagram and TikTok. That's at the Soapbox NY. And you'll see all ways to contact them. I hope that you enjoy all of their products as much as I do. I mean, I now have gotten all my family and friends addicted to the Soapbox NY. So if I can get more of you out there addicted to their Bath and Body boutique, the better. Were you a fan of the TCM Turner Classic Movie Network and you couldn't wait to see what classic movie they were going to premiere? And when you went to Hollywood/MGM studios in Disney World, you would always go to the Great Movie Ride. I absolutely loved the Great Movie Ride, especially when we landed in the Wizard of Oz scene and the Wicked Witch of the West came out from a heap of smoke and confronted Dorothy and Glinda. Well, I have a podcast for you. My good friend Christian Garcia's podcast is called That Old Gay Classic Cinema. So he combines classic cinema analysis with a queer study angle. So some of his recent episodes include Singing in the Rain, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Sunset Boulevard with our good friend Janine Cucci, the co-owner of the Soapbox NY. Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, The Philadelphia Story, and so much more. You can listen to his podcast wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. And every Friday, I release a new That Old Gay Classic Cinema episode because he is now part of the ITBR network. I am now releasing his episodes on the ITBR podcast. So make sure that you have a listen because I was on his first episode talking all things The Sound of Music, which, if you didn't know, I was Captain Von Trapp when I was in high school. So make sure you follow him on TikTok and Instagram at That Old Gay Classic Cinema and rate, subscribe, do all the things, and please help support my friend Christian's podcast. I know you're going to love it.
So before we jump into part 2, just a reminder, this is probably the most brutal few minutes of the episode, the most brutal part of the episode. So it is going to be rough for a while, but I will put in a little audio cue, I guess, for you guys. So if you're fast forwarding and you hear me, I will say, if you had to skip, come here. You're good. This is the part where you can come back and join and listen. And I'll give a little recap. Nothing too graphic. And then we'll continue with the rest of the story. But for now, if you are easily triggered, it is your time to fast forward. Laurie led Melinda and Shanda to an abandoned building in the woods just off a logging road. Tony and Hope were absolutely terrified at this point and stayed back in the car. Once at the building, the girls made Shanda remove everything but her underwear. Then Melinda began to beat her before attempting to slash her throat. Melinda failed because the knife was dull. For whatever reason, Hope decided to join Melinda and Laurie. And either she did it willingly or she was ordered to by the other girls. But she held Shanda down while Melinda and Laurie took turns stabbing her. They then strangled her unconscious and threw her in the back of the truck. Hope and Tony were told that Shanda was dead. They then drove back to Laurie's house and cleaned up. A very still much alive Shanda began screaming from the trunk. Laurie then took a paring knife from her house and stabbed Shanda multiple times more. Despite this, Shanda was still alive. At around 2:30 a.m., Laurie and Melinda decided that they wanted to go driving around again, and the other girls stay behind. Laurie pulls the car over when she hears Shanda crying and making gurgling noises. When Laurie opens the trunk, Shanda sits up and is just in complete horrific shape. Her eyes are rolling to the back of her head. She's on the verge of passing out. Laurie grabs the tire iron and beats Shanda in the head with it. They also use it to do other disgusting and disturbing things to her, but that is not something we are getting into. There's already too much, and also just, if you really want to know, like I always say, you can look in the sources. But again, even after all of that, Shanda was still alive. Laurie and Melinda then return to Laurie's house where, again, Tony and Hope are waiting. It's early morning at this point, and Laurie tells her mom that she's going to take the other girls home, but not before showing them Shanda's mangled and abused body. Which, again, still very much alive at this point. Even though she's not conscious, she's still alive. On the drive to take the girls to their prospective homes, they stop at a gas station to put gas in the car and to also empty two 2-liter soda bottles and fill them with gas as well. Laurie then drives the girls to the local burn pile. Hope and Laurie wrap Shanda in a blanket and carry her to a field by a gravel road that is slightly more traveled. Hope then douses Shanda, wrapped in the blanket, with gasoline. And both Hope and Laurie set her on fire. A few minutes later, after the girls decide they're going to leave, they come back and they do it again because Melinda isn't convinced that Shanda is dead. They then drive to a McDonald's, and at this point it's around 9:30 a.m. So if you understandably had to skip, you can join us here. The least graphic version of what happened to Shanda is that Melinda and Laurie beat, stabbed, and abused her. Now, despite all of the life-threatening injuries she sustained, and for how long she sustained it, her actual cause of death was from smoke inhalation from being burned alive. After all of this, the girls then went to McDonald's with the other two, and this was around 9:30 a.m. Now, Tony, who had stayed in the car the entire time that they were at the burn pile and pretty much any other time, went and called a friend and told them actually about Shanda's murder while the other girls were eating breakfast. Laurie then drops Tony and Hope off at their houses, like the plan, before she then returns to her own home with Melinda. Later that day, Melinda arranges to meet with Amanda and one of her other friends, and she tells them about Shanda's murder. Now, before dropping Amanda back off at her home, Melinda kisses her, tells her she loves her, and begs her not to tell anyone what she's told her. And Amanda promises not to, that she's not going to say anything before she then goes inside, because understandably she is also terrified. Shanda's body was found almost immediately once, the fire died down by two brothers driving towards the Jefferson Proving Ground, which I believe is how you pronounce that. I'm not sure, but they were going there to go hunting when they saw Shanda's body on the side of the road. They called police at around 10:55 a.m. to report what they had found, and detectives and forensics of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to the scene. Now, Shanda's father, Stephen, also noticed that his daughter was missing early on. But after spending the morning and some of the afternoon phoning friends and neighbors and Shanda's mother, Jackie, Stephen and Jackie decided that they needed to go to the Clark County Sheriff's Department and file a missing persons report for their daughter. And this was around 1:45 p.m. on January 11th. Later that evening, at around 8:20 p.m., Tony Lawrence and Hope Rippey decide that they just can't take it anymore, and they go to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, and they are completely hysterical. They tell police everything and named Laurie Thackett and Melinda Loveless in their statements. Now, thankfully, this was a situation where both departments, because these are two different sheriff's departments, they actually communicated with each other and were able to, because of the use of dental records, able to identify Shanda Sharer as, the match for her parents' missing persons report. Laurie and Melinda were arrested on January 12th. All of the 4 girls were tried as adults. Melinda Loveless and Laurie Thackett were sentenced to 60 years in prison. Hope Rippey was ultimately sentenced to 35 years for her role in Shanda's murder, and Tony Lawrence pled guilty to 1 count of criminal confinement and received the maximum of 20 years. Now, during Melinda's time in prison, Jackie, Shanda's mother, actually reached out to her and found out that she was doing like a service dog training program in prison, and now donates a dog in Shanda's name to the program, like as often as she can. And I think that is totally incredible that, she's making something positive come out of something so horrifically negative that happened to her. Now, on December 14th, 2000, Tony Lawrence was released on parole, and I believe has since served her parole and is out free. Same with Hope Ripley, who on April 28th, 2006 was released on parole. Then on January 11th, 2018, Laurie Thackett was released on parole. And then finally, on September 5th, 2019, Melinda Loveless was released on parole, and as far as I know, still serving parole, which I think Laurie Thackett might be also. So yeah, that is sadly the horrific, horrific murder of Shanda Sharer. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode. We will be back after Labor Day, so we won't be having any new episodes, not just True Crime and Academia, but also the Ivory Tower Boiler Room as well. But we're going to be back with some really awesome stuff for you guys, so we're very, very excited. Don't forget to follow True Crime and Academia on social media at True Crime and Academia on Threads, Instagram, and TikTok. If you would like to listen to this episode ad-free, go to patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room and become a subscriber today. All right, my loves, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope you all have a great week next week. And until after Labor Day, my loves, I will see you all later.